And all I'm saying is it's not too late now. Those voices that should have been listened to then can still be listened to. And I would say that people in Israel and Palestine, they have to sort of put their mature hats on and seriously get down to this. Stop this stupid rocket firing and then the counter bombing and so on. Just put the guns down and get back to the drawing board, get back to the diplomatic discussions. Come here to Marlborough House, come to London, and we'll work out a solution. I am sorry, it's about 50 years late, but it's better late than never. And in Britain we take a very long-term view of time. 50 years is nothing. I've just been chairing a meeting at Stonehenge. That's 5,000 years old. We take a big-term position on things. I just want to say a couple more things that hopefully can offer some help here. Here at the Castle we run a thing called the Centre for Peace Policy Research. There isn't such a thing elsewhere on the planet. What we really need to solve this problem of Gaza and this sort of recurring violence cycle that Israel and Palestine have got locked into, what I'm proposing, this idea of a Commonwealth accession programme and a peace treaty, permanent peace treaty, is what I call a peace policy. We need to begin to articulate visions of how peace can be possible, because at the moment, I don't know what's the matter with the intellectuals and philosophers and thinkers on this planet. They don't seem to be even thinking about it. People are thinking about military victory, about defence policy, security policy, strategic policy, foreign policy. Nobody's talking about peace policy. How are we going to get peace on this planet till we start articulating a peace policy? So, please join me in this process. If you're interested in academic work and research and policy studies, please join the Centre for Peace Policy Research here. If you've got a better idea than the Commonwealth route, let me know. Put a counter-argument forward. You'll find things on our website about this, the Centre for Peace Policy Research. The next thing I want to say is that, as well as doing that, the other project that I'm holding here at the Castle, on your behalf, okay, and that's about this specific conflict, is the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the Middle East, okay. So the TRC for the Middle East is the vision that, just as in South Africa, when the parties put their guns down, they could then start the healing process and the dialogue. What I'm saying is, once we get the truce, the ceasefire, the rockets start firing, the stop firing, and the bombs stop falling, we have to then get people around the table sharing their deeper visions, their deeper hopes, their brightest visions, And that's what the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the Middle East is about. And it's not just for the Israel-Palestine conflict, it's for the whole Middle East. Now you may say that's a big ask, but hey, it's got to be done. Because the problems of the Middle East are interconnected, they're interlocked. We've seen the problems of Syria overspilling into Iraq, the problems of Iraq and Afghanistan and Iran, and so I think truth-telling is the way to go forward. And Islam, Christianity, Judaism, we have a moral duty for truth-telling. I think that the tragedies of Iraq recently, in the invasion of 2003, the first Gulf War of 1991 with Kuwait and so on, I do think it's possible to get healing here. And I think that if peace could come between Israel and Palestine, if those beautiful people could show the world, yes, we can do what the British did in Northern Ireland, we can have a solution that's about reconciliation and truth-telling. We can grow out of our sort of craziness, the hatred stuff. Then I think it could become a beacon of light for the whole Middle East. That's my vision. I've heard once the statistics that in no other country in the world is there a higher concentration of PhDs than among the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. They're the most highly educated people in the world. So imagine if there could be peace here, and the light can change the darkness that other countries are suffering. Look, I mean, the hopes of the Arab Spring that we saw in Egypt, I had a friend come from Egypt who talked about this a couple of years ago, and and in other countries, Yemen, Libya, and so on. I think that really what the people wanted, and still want, is peace. The reason they were all in Tahrir Square was because they wanted peace. The reason they went to Libya and protested when Gaddafi was kind of clamping down on the country was because they wanted peace. Now, I think that's still the thing that can be delivered, and this is where the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the Middle East comes in. So please help me to do that work. I'm going to Turkey in a few weeks' time to the International Peace Research Association conference. If you're interested in peace research, come to Turkey in Istanbul in August, from the 8th to the 18th, I think it is. And we're going to be discussing peace researchers and scholars from all over the planet. I'll be sharing my thoughts, as well as many other scholars, hopefully many from Middle Eastern countries. Turkey, I think, has an important role to play in the Middle East peace project, because their Ottoman Empire ran the whole place. They ran Iraq, they ran Egypt, and on the whole they did it fairly successfully. They had a very tolerant brand of Islam. They had a tremendous Sufi tradition, the Bektashi tradition, the Rumi tradition. There was a tolerance for Shia and Sunni people to coexist, and for the Jewish community to be accepted. So I think if we go back to look at you know, some of the creative geniuses from the Ottoman era and some of the wisdom holders of that time, there can be inspiration for how we get to peace now in the Middle East. I also want to say just briefly a couple of other things. That I'm part of a network of philosophers for peace globally, and that's been going since the 80s. The bigger picture is we're trying to stop, you know, nuclear war and World War III going on here. And destabilization in the Middle East could trigger, God forbid, some kind of nuclear war. And as Linus Pauling, the great peace scientist and friend of Einstein, said in this book, No More War, published in 1958, you know, he was working with Einstein on creating Pugwash and Bertrand Russell, and they were saying, look, nuclear war has changed the way we must conduct business as nations and as peoples. We can't afford to have wars anymore. We live now in a period of rapid change, a period of revolution, he said, of nuclear revolution. Everything in the world has been changed as a result of scientific discoveries. I think that the greatest change of all is that in the ways of waging war. The change from old-fashioned molecular explosives, the one-ton TNT bomb, to the great nuclear weapon, the super bomb, that is 20 million times as powerful. Right? What Linus Pauling does in this book is explain exactly what is an H-bomb, thermonuclear explosion, how it works, and what it does to the human body. You know, it incinerates everything within a huge radius, but then beyond that, it radiates and destroys people. He says the time has now come for war to be abandoned, for diplomacy to move out of the 19th century into the real world of the 20th century. A world in which war and the threat of war no longer have a rightful place as the instrument of national policy. We must move towards a world governed by justice, by international law, and not by force. We must all, including the diplomats and the national leaders, change our point of view. We must recognise that extreme nationalism is a thing of the past. The idea that it is just as important to do harm to other nations as to do good for your own nation must be given up. We must all begin to work for the world as a whole, for humanity. Those are very, very important words, and they're as important now as they were in 1958 when he wrote them. He's the only chap to have won 2 Nobel Prizes. He won a Nobel Prize for chemistry, and he then won a Nobel Prize for peace. Okay. So I'm part of this international network of philosophers of peace. In fact, I'm the European coordinator for it. And so I'm appealing on behalf of that body to my dear friends in Israel and Palestine to really, you know, think seriously of a peace policy and look at whether what I'm saying might be helpful. As I say, I've just got back from Cordoba and a conference run by a thing called Process and Pilgrimage. The journey towards peace as a pilgrimage towards a sacred destination we can't know all the twists and turns that are going to occur on the way, but we can set off with the intention of going in the direction of peace. Yeah, it's like, I will go on pilgrimage to wherever, Mount Kailash or Mecca, or Iona, which is the island of Christians sacred to St. Columba just near here. And if you have that right intention, then I think you create the energy that makes the thing possible. Now I want to share one final project which is exciting, and that's called the Golden Gate Project. Okay. So here at the Castle of the Muses and internationally, we've been working on this visionary idea. Okay, let's look ahead. Let's imagine we've got peace between Israel and Palestine. Let's say we've got, you know, Palestine's a member of the Commonwealth. Israel can join too. There's no reason why not. You know, that would be nice. And we've got a lasting, permanent treaty of non-violence and non-aggression between Israel and the new state of Palestine. Then I think it would be time to reopen the Golden Gate. Okay, now this is the gate in the eastern wall of the old city of Jerusalem. It's been shut up by order of the Ottoman Sultan in 1541, Suleiman the Magnificent. And nobody can go in and out. Now this is a serious problem because all the legends and the myths talk about when that gate is reopened, the Messiah or you know, the salvation movement comes through that gate. The problem is that different religions say different things. The Christians say Christ will come back and come through that gate. It'll be opened and then the world will be at peace. The Muslims say, yes, Christ, but also Muhammad are coming back through that gate and it'll be open and then the world will be at peace. The Jews say, well, we're not sure. The Messiah is definitely coming through that gate, but it's certainly, we don't think it was Jesus or Muhammad, because look at all the trouble they caused. We're still waiting for the Messiah. We're not sure who it is, but we know that when the Messiah comes back, it'll be through that gate. Outside the gate is the largest Jewish cemetery, one of the largest in the world. And also, you look over onto the Mount of Olives, where Christ was. And when he came into Jerusalem, he used to come in through that gate. There's also a large Muslim cemetery. And the idea was that you were buried near the gate, so you could be there at the time of the end of time, the Last Judgment, and so on. What I'm saying is that why don't we open the gate collectively as humanity? Right? All the religious leaders, all the elders, the spiritual elders, from every faith on the planet, the little tribal elders, the pagan tribal elders, the Hopis, the you know, Navajo, the American Indian people, people from Africa, from the Solomon Islands, from all over the Commonwealth nations, from all the far-flung parts of the Middle East, you know, from Asia, from the Americas and so on. Everyone actually wants peace on this planet. And I would have thought the Council of Spiritual Elders of the planet and the various interfaith bodies that exist, and I was involved with interfaith diplomacy at quite a high level, you know, been to conferences in the Vatican and so on. Now, they all want peace, and they all want an interfaith dialogue to replace interfaith violence. My vision, and the vision of my Institute and Golden Gate Project, is if we open that gate collectively and all come in together, you know, and nobody takes precedence. The Jains, the Baha'is, the different forms of Christianity, the different forms of Islam, different forms of Judaism, the Druids, the ancient wisdom keepers of Britain and Ireland, which I'm their peace officer for. You know, every faith has a stake in peace. This is what I call the collective messianic project, and this is what Krishnamurti talked about. It's what Bion, the psychologist, talked about. It's what Jung talks about with the collective unconscious, you know. And it's what I think the Kabbalah talks about in Sufism. We are all that energy. We haven't yet learned to manifest that effectively through our political, social and economic structures. You know, and that's why we need peace, is to get that metaphysical right to be our true selves. And that's what's really at stake here in this peace work. When we can get that kind of bridge through to enlightenment that the planet needs, then we get that peace. So I see this you know, it's a call. What I'm trying to issue is a call to help get that project, and you can work on it through your own inner opening of your Golden Gate, through your own inner enlightenment. Every time you choose non-violence and peace as a response rather than violence and hatred, every time you choose love or compassion instead of violence and rude words and hatred, and anger. You're helping open that gate a bit more. But collectively, we can actually put our minds together, and it's a logically beneficent project, I think. And so the contribution I'm hoping to make, or trying to make to that, is also, as I said, through commentaries on the scriptures. The different faith groups all have their sacred scriptures. So from a position of transpersonal history, I've been going through the Quran, the Ketuvim, the Jewish scriptures, the Gospels, and other scriptures, Zoroastrian, Buddhist, etc. And saying, look, these are the common points. This is where we agree. Let's focus on that. I mean, if you think about it, how is light made? Light is made, as Linus Pauling explains in his work on the physics of nuclear bombs, is by the fusion of elements. Light is created by the fusion of elements. That's how the sun works. And that's what we all depend on for our being. It's when things come together, they create light. So what I'm saying is the planet needs a bit more light here. And when we come together as spiritual elders and wisdom keepers, whether you're Muslim or Jewish or Christian or pagan or goddess